Alright, welcome to part 3 of the prologue. This one, we come off the heels of the end of the last episode after the summoning of Archer. And now we do February 1st, alright? Let's go. A fateful day draws to a close. Oh, we finally start. Okay, I might actually need to break out the flowchart for this. That makes 6, including me. Okay, so that fixed it. Me, doing that fixed it. Alright, sure. Once the seventh and final master summons, Once the seventh and final master summons the seventh, the holy grail war of this generation will begin. In the not so distant future, the battle I've been waiting 10 long years for is about to commence. No. Sorry about that. That's because I actually already did this. And I'm actually going back through it afterwards in order to record it. The Holy Grail War. It's a grand ritual that's been repeated for hundreds of years, a fight to the death between 7 participants of which only one can survive. It's said that a holy grail exists in the land of Fuyuki, that a number of mages fought over it in the past. Their one and only objective was to obtain the relic called the Holy Grail. However, the Grail's origins are unclear. We are sure it isn't the chalice that held the blood of God, but its power is fearsome enough to be compared to the genuine article. Oh god. That's right, they say the Holy Grail can grant any wish. Only one person can possess it. The Holy Grail can only grant one wish for one person. Despite that, 7 mages are needed to summon the Grail to this land. 7 collaborators to create one miracle. So as you might imagine, it's like the 7 sages from Zelda, if you know what I'm talking. If you know what that means. So as you might imagine, it was only a matter of time before they started fighting over the Grail. Right in 2 by Tool starts playing, I suppose. I wish I could, but I can't. Oh god. Like so many conflicts, it started out as a competition over property rights. Really? Okay. The 7 mages equally use the power of the Holy Grail to summon their respective familiars that do battle over the Grail itself. Only one mage can obtain the Grail. Why is it Japan, not the Holy Land? As a result, 7 people who started as colleagues ended up in a ferocious battle unto death. But like the Belko experiment, that's the gist of the ritual known as the Holy Grail War, a struggle for ownership between mages. The mages chosen by the Holy Grail are called Masters, who use the blessing of the Grail to acquire powerful familiars known as servants. Saber, Lancer, Archer, Caster, Berserker, Rider, Assassin. Those are the 7 main classes anyway. 2 things serve as proof that one has become a master: summoning a command of a servant, and the mark of command spells to compel the servant's servitude. The first goes without saying. The Archer I summoned yesterday, no, a few hours ago to be exact, is Tosaka Rin's servant. As for the second, a master must closely guard the command spells that control one's servants. This is probably the most critical aspect of being a master. When I summoned Archer, symbols appeared on my right hand, namely command spell Stigmata bestowed by the Holy Grail upon the summoning of a servant that marks one's new status as a master. A massive amount of magical energy is compressed into these seals, whose power is fleeting rather than long-lasting. They disappear once they're used, and as the shape suggests, each mark represents a single use. In other words, one only gets 3 shots. A master who has used up all 3 command spells can no longer control a servant and is as good as dead. Therefore, command spells must be handled with care until the very end, since they're as valuable as one's life. It pains me to know that I burned one right off the bat, but it wasn't a total waste, so I'll chalk it up as a win. After all, a servant can turn on its master at any time. If one command spell is what it takes to put a collar on him, then I consider it a fair trade. That's about it for the broader strokes of the business. Once 7 servants have been summoned, the Holy Grail will begin. Tonight's sleep will be a fitful one. I don't know when the final master will appear, but they could be right around the corner. This is gonna go for most of the day, except for the final bit. I feel sluggish. My blurry gaze goes up to the window only to see it. It's already bright outside. Based on yesterday, I'm gonna guess it counts as absence. After a drowsy check of the clock, I make up my mind to skip school today. Sitting up in bed, I heave a long sigh. Not being a morning person is enough to explain why I feel so dull. I think Archer mentioned something about it. A master would be out of commission after summoning a servant. I remember it all clearly now. I'd rather not, to be honest, but it's not as if denying the fact, so let me do it over. I dragged myself out of bed. A mental boxing match rages between the outside air, which is quite warm for winter, and the comfort of my bed sheets. It concludes in a 3-second knockout against the temptation of going back to sleep. I check my body in the mirror. Nothing out of place aside from the loss of half of my usual magical energy. I review the situation. I summon the servant Archer, who doesn't have an ounce of respect for his master. To make matters worse, he doesn't even know who he is. Talk about a headache. Migraine, more like. Servants are strong familiars all on their own, but what makes them truly formidable is the secret weapon they each possess. Frustratingly, Archer claims to have forgotten what his is. We're both in the same boat, then I can only pray that he'll sort his memories out, but who knows how long that might take. Good grief, I really got my work cut out for... Excuse me. The parlor is completely back normal. I thought maybe just clear away the dead debris, but the room is so spotless I can't help but be impressed. He must have felt bad for wrecking the place. I doubt he would have gotten into trouble otherwise. I guess I ought to commend him for being more of a decent guy than I. Oh, hello. I retract my statement. There isn't a remorseful bone in his body. I have a headache. Why do I have to put up a serpent judging my interior decor? I thought servants all cared only about fighting. Are we sure this guy isn't defective? Acting like he owns the place without missing a beat, Archer produces a teacup and fills it with the expensive reddish tea he's been brewing. I wouldn't know anything about tea. I casually drink peppermint tea when I, don't want any of the actual stuff in the morning, and it's like 6 a.m. It's actually very warm. It's actually very good. Anyway. There's a lot I want to say right now, but oddly enough I can't break up the indignation too. The way he does it all is so refined, I've got to admit he might be rather cultured. I sit down on the chair. The teacup is placed soundlessly in front of me. I take a sip. Oh, it's delicious. I respect it as much since it's my favorite Chinese tea. A spring harvest Hongcha. I'd be upset if it didn't taste good. No idea what that means. Like I said, peppermint tea bitch over here. On that note, I'd normally be upset if someone used my favorite tea leaves without asking. It makes me mad, but the tea was brewed so exquisitely that the pleasure it brings overcomes my anger. I set the teacup down with a forceful thud.
結構よ。私は茶坊主が欲しくてマスターになったわけじゃないわ。あなたもね、頼みもしないことをする必要はないわよ。
そうか。確かに私も茶坊主になったり後片付けをするために契約したわけではない。
ええ、私が求めているのは戦力としての使い魔よ。家事をこなすサーバントなんて聞いたことがないし、する必要も特にないわ。
ん？特にはないとはどういう意味かな？
別に。それより、あなた自分の正体を思い出せた？
Archer shakes his head in the negative. That doesn't bode well if he can't remember after a single night that his memories probably won't return easily. There are some measures I can try today, but...
わかった。あなたの記憶に関してはおいおい対策を考えとく。じゃあ出かける支度をして、ハッチャー。召喚されたばかりで勝手もわからないでしょ。街を案内してあげるから。
出かける支度？いや、そんな必要はないだろう。出るのならばすぐに出られるが。
あのね、そんな格好で出歩くつもり？どう見ても普通じゃないし、他のマスターが見たら一発でサーバントってわかるじゃない。
Fashion-wise, this man is probably the second loudest man in the universe, and I already know we all know what number one is. That's right, the Sixth Doctor. I'll put a link in the description. I'm not editing this.
私、自分から私はマスターですなんて言いふらす気はないんだけど。
ああ、そういうことか。それも問題はない。確かに着替える必要はあるが、それは実体化している時だけでね。サーバントはもともと霊体だ。非戦闘時には霊体になってマスターにかける負担を減らす。
ああ、そっか。召喚されたって英霊は英霊だものね。霊体に肉体を与えるのはマスターの魔力なんだから、私が魔力提供をカットすれば。
自然。そうなったサーバントは守護霊のようなものだ。レイラインでつながっているマスター以外には観測されない。もっとも会話程度はできるから偵察ならば支障はないが。
わ、便利。それじゃあ本当に他のマスターを探し出すなんて難しいんだ。
ああ。だが魔術師は魔術師を知覚できるだろう。優れた魔術を知るサーバントならば遠く離れたサーバントの位置さえ把握するだろう。
Archer has it in one. Masters are supposed to be capable mages, and the more magical energy the mage has, the better they are detecting traces of magical energy. As far as I know, however, there isn't anyone else around with that degree of power.
で、あんたはどうなの？他のサーバントの位置、わかる？
マスター、私のクラスは何か忘れたのか？遠く離れた敵の位置を探るなど、騎士上がりにできるものか？
He has a point. Archer's magical energy isn't on that level. It's likely the only magically powerful casters capable of easily locating distant foes.
わかったわ。じゃあ、とりあえず後についてきて、ハーチャー。あなたの呼び出された世界を見せてあげるから。
そう目新しいものではなさそうだがね。それよりマスター、君、大切なことを忘れていないか？
え？大切なことって何？
まったく。君、まだ本調子ではないぞ。契約において最も重要な交換を私たちは未だしていない。
契約において最も重要な交換。
Is he demanding equivalent exchange? No, that can't be it. The chances to take part in the Holy Grail War is already reward enough for a servant. Wow, that's some thinking. There shouldn't be anything else left to trade.
君な、朝は弱いんだな、本当に。
Archer sounds exasperated. His oh-so-sardonic manner of speech finally gives me an idea. Come to think of it, he never once called me by my name.
ああ、しまった。名前。
思い当たったか。まあ今からでも遅くはないさ。それでマスター、君の名前は？これからは何と呼べばいい？
Archer sounds sulky. Oh man, he really is a decent person. I'm sure of it now. After all, there's no tangible benefit to exchanging names. Servants so falsely bound to their masters by the command spells. All names are key to contracting with a regular familiar. There's no need for a master and a servant to be so intimate. But it is important to Archer. He's clearly trying to establish trust between comrades in arms regardless of the command spells.
私、遠坂凛よ。あなたの好きなように呼んでいいわ。
I answer in a clipped tone, unwilling to let slip any admiration. He'll probably just call me something impersonal like Master or Hey You behind the hall, which works out just fine. Except Archer chews on Tosaka for a moment.
それではリンと。ああ、この響きは実に君に似合っている。
He says something really forward.
リン、どうした？何やら顔色がおかしいが。
うるさい。いいからさっさと行くわよ、あーちゃん。とにかくのんびりしてる暇なんてないんだから。
I turn on my heel and storm away, huffing, so infuriated. I'm not even sure why. Damn that Archer. Did you just say that to mess with me?
ありえる。こいつなら絶対そうだ。
Yeah, I'm sure that's it. Must be all part of his plan to get me all flustered. I better be careful. We gotta work with this wise guy from here on out. He's not Greek, so. I take Archer outside. Fuyuki City, my hometown, is broadly divided into two halves. There's Miyama, which is left over from the village, the city creative, and Shinto, the developing modern region across the river. My house is in Miyama, the old part. Miyama itself is split into two areas: the European-style neighborhoods originally inhabited by immigrants from abroad, and the old Japanese-style houses set against the mountainous spectrum. Both areas are situated on hilltops along the outskirts of towns. The street dividing the two residential areas is fairly normal by comparison. How normal, you ask? This normal. This looks like a road outside my house, if it weren't for all the Japanese stuff. This is the crossroads of Miyama. On one side lies the road going up the hill to the European neighborhoods where I live. Opposite is the road leading into the Japanese houses, and between them is the path leading into Shinto, where my school is and the shopping areas are, as well as Ryuju Temple in the mountains. Sorry, I named the ship myself. We've come to the bridge connecting Shinto and Miyama. Years ago, a big train station went up in Shinto, bringing with it frenzied urbanization. They may belong to the same municipality, but Miyama and Shinto couldn't be more different. Like, say, the name Fuyuki, written with the kanji for winter tree, supposedly inspired by the long winters here, which, by the way, are pretty long. Which does feed my headcanon that this is in northern Japan, because those winters, if you actually go to Hokkaido, if you like see pictures of Hokkaido, it actually snows there, like, really heavily. Despite that, temperatures are warm. February here is only about as cold as the very start of winter elsewhere. I bet if you randomly start digging, you turn up a hot spring or two. Yay, Pacific Ring. Though, of course, our temperate weather disqualifies this town as a hot spring resort location. You've got an odd climate where the mild winter suddenly turn into springtime bloom in April. Yeah, like the famous saying, March showers bring April flowers. This is what Shinto looks like. A number of tall buildings have been erected as if in a hurry, giving the hastily developed city a distinctly artificial feel. It all happened in the last decade or so. 10 years ago, there was a large fire that wiped out a residential area. Someone built a bunch of glass and metal buildings on the depopulated land. Like Chicago, Cleveland. Both of those multiple times. Even the river. And here is the center of it all.
ここがシントの公園よ。これで主だったところを歩いて回ったわけだけど、感想は？
I ask Archer who's next to me. Of course he's
広い
invisible.
公園だ。だというのに人気がないのは何か理由でもあるのか？
やっぱりそう見える？まあ、ここはちょっとした曰くがあるから。
I look out over the park. You'd think that a wide open space like this would have children playing in it even on a weekday, but instead there are only a handful of people. The place feels dull and
10
lifeless.
年前の話よ。この辺り一帯で大きな火事があったんだって。火は一日燃え続けて、雨が降り出した頃に消えたんだとか。
that fire will become relevant in future future parts of the series, not released in visual novel format in a manga. Until it becomes a game, I can't show it.
その後町は復興したけど、ここだけはそのままなの。焼け野原になって何もなくなったから公園にしたらしいわ。
It's like the French communes that are still established but have no population as a memorial to World War I or so. Archer says nothing, but I can tell he sensed something odd even if I can't see
気
him.
づいたみたいね。そうよ。ここが前回の聖杯戦争決着の地。
なるほど。それでこんなにもここは怨念に満ちているというわけか。
わかるの？そういうの。
サーバントというのは霊体だ。そのあり方は怨念、猛襲に近い。故に同じ無念には敏感なのさ。街中でも濃い場所はあるが、ここは別格だ。我らから見れば固有結界のそれに近い。
Tosaka mutters under her breath. Archer's inflectionist voice mentions an unusual bit of magical jargon. Innate bounded fields. Mages call them reality marbles. Reality marbles are considered one of the apexes of magecraft. They're said to be infinitely close to true magic. For the last few centuries, bounded fields have served as mages' defensive barriers. To put it in simple terms, they're like a home security system with real teeth. Bounded fields are conventionally erected on a piece of land with more building to guard against outside threats than merely an alteration of an area that already exists. Reality marbles, however, are something else entirely. You can think of them as a space that consumes reality itself. When a mage materializes their imaginary world, a representation of their mind, and it overwrites the real world, what we call resulting from a reality marble. It's a large area of magecraft that rebuilds the world according to a mage's wishes.
リー、どうした？考え事か？
Yeah, exposition.
ちょっと意外だったから。こういう結界だなんて、アーチャーのくせに珍しい言葉を知ってるなって。
なんだ、知っていてはおかしいか？
だってそうじゃない。こういう結界っていうのは魔術師にとっては禁忌中の禁忌、奥義の中の奥義だもの。アーチャーであるあなたが知ってるなんて筋違いよ。
I shot a quizzical gaze in his general direction and reply, feeling a corporeal sigh.
リン、英雄とは剣術、魔術に長けたものを指す。アーチャーだからといって弓しか使えないと思うのは勝手だが、私以外のサーバントにそんな楽観は持たないでくれ。
That does make sense when he puts it like that.
わかったわよ。今のは軽率な発言だったわ。次からは気をつけるからこれでいいでしょ。
I did not mean to press that.
リン、
I found the
ズ
same
バ
button.
リ言おう。君は優秀だが、それゆえに他人を過小評価する欠点がある。成人するまでには強制したまえ。
何気に失礼なこと言うわね、あんた。
Break my hat. He's talking about like an unruly racehorse.
いや、失礼。別にリンがジャジャ馬だと言ったわけではない。単にイメージ通りの表現を使っただけというか。
Racehorses are. Back in the day, they used to use goats. Nowadays, they use horse tranquilizers. So yes, they can be considered unruly. That's where the phrase "getting my goat" actually originated from people who would people who would steal racehorse goats before a race. Goats actually do have a calming effect on horses, but nowadays they use horse tranquilizers.
なおさら悪いわ。
My right hand suddenly flares with pain.
ちょっと黙って、あーちゃん。
The command spells in my right hand had the throbbing, almost like a dull alarm warning their own.
誰かに見られてる。
I always feel like somebody's watching me. I scan my surroundings. I mentally weave a detection web and cast it out over the park.
私じゃ見つけられない。あーちゃん、あなたは？
難しいな。私には視線すら感じられる。
Archers do need a great sense of sight. Like, to be fair, that might just be elf magic.
ってことは見てるのはマスターね。
I don't know who it is, but if Archer can't tell, it must be a master. We don't have all 7 yet, but if the fighting could still start at any time, maybe whoever's watching me is up for an early
霊
skirmish.
樹は霊樹に反応する。マスターであるのなら、誰がマスターであるかは出会えば感じられるということか。だがそれならリンにも
ええ。けど高位の術者なら自分の魔力ぐらい隠し通せる。いくら霊樹同士が反応するって言っても、その霊樹だって魔力で発動するものよ。大元であるマスター自身が魔術回路を閉じていれば見つけることは難しいわ。
厄介だな。ではこちらはいいように位置を知らせているということか。
でしょうね。まあ私だって家探しすれば魔力殺しぐらいは見つかるだろうけど。
必要ないと。
だって隠さなければ向こうからやってきてくれるでしょ。こっちから出向く手間が省けるわ。
Archer doesn't respond. Maybe he's irritated with me.
何よ、自信過剰はいけないって言いたいの？
I ask of the defensive thinking of our earlier exchanges. Archer mentally brushes the question
君
aside.
はそのままが一番強い。小物には付きまとわせてやるがよかろう。
I could feel the smirk in his tone. I'm not saying I like what he said, but it is enough of an olive branch, I suppose. We start walking around town again. I spend the day taking him to all the important places and even drop by some less significant spots that might be useful to know. After dinner, I make our fine stop. It's now after 7 in the evening. This is a good chance to show the best vantage point in the city. Alright, I'm gonna stop this one here because the next part